Got that going. Fix a couple things here. Sorry, man. Gotta gotta make sure everything's set up and aligning the way it's supposed to here. Sorry.
You're good. I went through it last night.
I hadn't had a chance to go back and watch yours. What'd you talk about last night?
I just talked a little bit about my journey starting last year and kind of why I do this and the direction I'm going with my content.
Awesome, man. Did you get a lot of some decent engagement off of it?
92 for my first live, two
Awesome.
subscribers, so I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Where how many subscribers you at with the channel now?
1100.
Awesome.
I think by the end of next week, I'll be in the partner program. My goal is to hit the 4,000 hours by June.
Yeah.
I just got to grind a little bit more.
Yeah. They make it so you have to, don't they?
Yep.
And I get why they do that. They don't want anybody and their brother able to do it. So, you know, I guess there's some logic to it. It's good. One more. All right. We got live stream going. You got any questions? I think I already asked that before we start.
Ready to roll.
All right, man. I will get the accoutrements recording here. There we go. All right, we'll kick it off. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another live follow-up session podcast. I'm your host, Sam Thrash, and this week, first timer joining us on the podcast. He's a member of our follow-up session team and a fellow content creator in the outdoor community, Mr. Terry Colley. Welcome to the show, man. Happy to have you.
Appreciate you having me here. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to it as well, man. I'm excited to sit down and chat with you. And for anybody that might also be curious or have questions for you, like I just mentioned, we are live streaming this one. So folks are welcome to drop something in the YouTube chat or whatever suit your fancy. And we'll be happy to throw them out here during the podcast. But man, for our listeners, those tune into the show, never heard your name before, don't know who you are, introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about you and where you came from.
Okay. So, my name is Terry Colley. In the digital world, I'm known as the outdoor amputee, and I got that name from growing up having prosthetic legs. So, when I was born, I had a congenital birth defect and I was missing parts and pieces of bones in my legs. So, at the age of 1, I was test fitted with a prosthetic to learn how to crawl with, and I started to actually walk with the prosthetic leg. So they decided to go ahead and fit me with full blown prosthetic leg, and that's how my right side started. And my left leg, I had two toes, partial foot, and I only have the tibia in the lower part of my leg. So as I got older and I've been active my entire life, my foot started breaking down. So at the age of 15, I was facing amputation, and the doctors pretty much told me that I could do it then or wait till I got older. And I decided to go ahead and do it since I was young. I would heal quick, and I could get back to doing the things I want to do. So, 15, I decided to have it amputated. I was walking by spring, playing sports by summer, and hunting by fall. So
Wow.
that's how my journey started as being an amputee.
So 15 years old. You spoke of earlier when you were one. I imagine there's not a whole lot of memory of or recollection of that time in your life, perhaps. But at 15, what was your mindset at the time? Because just me thinking out loud, it for a teenager, that's a pretty big life choice and decision to make. So how was that for you at the time?
So my parents have been a big part of the foundation of who I am. And growing up, my parents were not the type to baby me. They wanted me to do things and they encouraged me to do things. So when we started having these conversations with the doctors, we found out all the information that we could. And my parents said, "We want you to make this decision. You're the one that's got to live with it." I
Hmm.
thought about it and the trouble I was having with my foot. I decided to me it was worth the risk. And I decided it was going to be my decision, my terms, and that's how I wanted to do it.
Yeah. Well, kudos, man. That's a big decision, and as you just mentioned, you had a pretty sounds like a pretty quick turnaround and got to start engaging in all the normal things in life at that point, and that's awesome. So
Yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead.
it's been trying. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like everybody else. I battled depression. I had my pity party, and after I got over my pity party, I realized that there was really nothing different about me other than just having cool legs, and I was still able to do things that I wanted to do. Sometimes I was able to do things that I probably wasn't able to do before. So for me, it was a no brainer once I got back into a rhythm.
Gotcha. So tell me a little bit more about, more specific to hunting. Where did your hunting journey start and how did you get into outdoors and all that lifestyle in general?
So my great grandpa, when I was at the age of 5, used to bring me down to his house and he would set up Prince Albert cans. And he had an old model 22 rifle. And every day after school, summertime, I would come down there and we would just shoot Prince Albert cans all the time. And shortly after that, he kind of passed away, and that gun was handed down to me, which I still have in my gun safe. It is put up, it's not been fired since then. For me, it's kind of like an heirloom that I will hand down to my son when he gets a little bit older, and kind of hope to have that generation hand down. But shooting that little 22 got me hooked, and times were different back then. When I got home from school, I would grab a shotgun and I would go squirrel hunting. And my parents we had woods behind us, and I would just go up in the woods and squirrel hunt. My dad beagle hunted all the time, so I was always around, hunting. And then it turned into deer hunting, and deer hunting was like the one thing that I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought it was a bigger challenge, and getting to go from hunting little small game to bigger game, it was really fun for me. And getting to spend time with my dad, uh, that was really fun for me when I was younger hunting.
Yeah. No, that father-son connection, it definitely sticks with you for the rest of your life. At that point, it leaves a lasting impact. I know for me, it's been, uh, yeah, that's one thing that'll, even after my dad's long gone, it'll never go away as far as the impact that's had on me and everything. So I grew up hunting with my dad and everything, and past 5 years we've been able to hunt again on the same property together, which has been really awesome. And now my son's getting into it as well, so got a third generation out there now, and yeah, you know, the kill or the size of the antlers seems to be a whole lot more insignificant in those moments. You know, it's more about just the time you get to spend out there with people you care about. So I'm a firm believer in that.
Absolutely. That was true this year. Me and my dad were hunting, and he wound up shooting an 8 point buck, and I was being really selective this year hunting. And when he texted me and told me that he shot one, for me, my mindset immediately turned to I want to take a deer so me and my dad could double up. And this was during muzzleloading season, and I had, I think it was a 6 point, decent, nothing crazy. Walked out literally 7 yards from my blind, and I pulled the trigger, and the cap didn't go off. And by the time I could get
Wow.
another cap out, he just walked off and to the sunset, and that was that. But I think I was more happy for my dad getting that deer than if I even would have filled a tag that day. So it's just those hunts that you get when you get those text messages. That's something you'll just never get back.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree. It's special. I remember, you know, I grew up hunting with my dad, and then I went several basically once I as a teenager, once I got a driver's license, it was like I was off and hunting by myself because I could now. I could, you know, I had my own job, I had my own truck, and I could whenever I want, you know, at that point and everything. So there was a whole lot less coordination with him and everything. And I didn't really at the time, I was just excited to hunt. I didn't really know what I was missing at the time, but you know, grow up, get into adulthood, get married, have kids of your own, and you know, our hunting situations as far as where we could go would change. And I remember the first time after, you know, since I was 15 that I was able to get back into stands, you know, years ago with him was the family actually kind of pitched in and got him you know, got him a deer hunt on a place down in the Texas Hill Country. Nothing fancy, you know, not one of these stupid big deer, but just it had been a long time since he had hunted at the time. And that was the first time in years, long time that I had ever gotten to actually sit in a stand with my dad and hunt and everything for 3 days. And yeah, it was pretty special. We took it down to the wire too. We took it down the last morning, and he finally shot the buck that we'd been waiting to see all weekend. So it worked out. But yeah, I never forget that one for sure. It was a special time.
Yeah, we used to, when I was a teenager, we would hunt out probably Midwestern Virginia, and we always had a deer camp, pulled the camper out, and I think it was eighth grade. I had biology, and the rule was you had to have good grades to miss school to go hunting. And that year, I was not doing well in biology, and I lied and told my parents that the grades were delayed. So I went hunting with my dad, and it was a slow week. We walked farm after farm that we had permission to hunt, and we didn't see hardly anything. And then the last day we were loading up, and I think we had about 45 minutes before daylight, and there was a doe that had walked out probably about 250 yards from us. And I was like, I'm gonna see if I can shoot that doe. So went over and propped up on the fence, pulled the trigger, and I just didn't see nothing. So we walked over there, and I had wound up hitting that doe, and she fell and literally spun in circles on the ground and dug a hole. And I think at the time that was my first deer that I had ever killed. And
Wow.
then I got home, and the report card was there. So that was a short-lived celebration. So
Oh.
make sure you don't lie about your homework, kids.
Yeah. A little bit of a bummer on the back end of your first year.
Yeah, I think it flew over a little bit easier since there was a tag killed, and I've got a picture. Gosh, this was a long time ago. I think I was like 4'5". This is before I had my amputation, because I just did not grow tall when I was younger. And me and Dad are standing in the yard with our deer hanging up. And a couple years ago, we wound up doubling up on the same day, and we took a picture, and it was almost 30 years to the day that those pictures were taken. So,
Oh
you
wow.
know, those are two special pictures for me.
Yeah, no, that's incredible for sure. I my dad and I, when I shot my first deer, I think it was actually a triple. He shot and we sat like all afternoon and into the evening. And I shot a big old doe. He shot a couple of does out of that hunt on out of that stand. So by dark, we had three deer on the ground, one of them being my first deer. And again, that was the deal that my dad had was he said you can't hunt by yourself until you've shot your first deer. So I spent a couple years hunting with him and working toward that. And so that I think it was like the day after Christmas or something, or couple days after Christmas, and I shot that deer. And yeah, the next time that we were able to double up, I guess technically we weren't in the same stand, but in 2019 we had a fall obsession hunt in San Angelo, Texas, for just helping out a landowner with some cull bucks and some doe management, and that was the next time that my dad and I both shot a deer, pretty close to each other, same evening and everything. Got to have the old picture of both of us with our deer next to one another and everything. First time since I was 7 or 8 years old that we had a picture like that. So yeah, it's pretty special and see those moments come full circle too. So
Yeah, that's the deer you see back here behind me. That's my son's first buck, and that one has a aggravating story. But to me, this is one of my favorite mounts. Of all the deer that I've killed, him getting his first buck to me was like the best thing ever.
yeah,
But my normal taxidermist, I could not get a hold of him. So, you know, we hunt in Virginia, and I've got to drop the deer off before we get back into Tennessee. And I could not get a hold of him, so we had to wind up staying over at my parents' house. This was youth weekend on a Saturday, so I had to stay over on a Sunday because I could not find a taxidermist.
huh,
So I called around, and some people gave me this guy, and they said, "Hey, he does really good work. You know, he's a little slower, but he'll get it done." So I called him up. We stopped by, paid a deposit, and he said it'll be about 12 months, which that's kind of average. That's what I figured.
yeah,
So the 12 months comes, goes, don't hear nothing, but I'm patient, so I waited till March. At this month, that time we're 15 months in, so I just sent a little text. It's like, hey, not rushing you, just want to know if I can get a status. My son's curious, and didn't hear anything. So
mm,
another 2 months go by. I send out another flyer. I'm like, hey, could you just give me a little bit of information here? And he said, sorry, injured my hand, just been a little bit behind. I'm getting caught up. I said, no problem, just let me know. I think we went up into August, September, and I still hadn't heard nothing. So I called him, and he said, hey, sorry, I cut my fingers off, or almost cut his fingers off. I couldn't really tell
wow,
what he said. And he said, it's almost done. I should have it like by the end of the month. So I waited, and Christmas, my son's like, this is going on almost 2 years now.
yeah,
And he said, do you think I'm going to get my deer head for Christmas this year? So I called the guy, and I was like, look, I'm not trying to be rude. I just want to know when the deer head. I paid a deposit. It's been almost 2 years. I understand, but give me something.
yeah,
Never heard from him. So I drove up to his shop. I called a game warden first, and I talked to a game warden. I said, hey, what do I need to do in this situation? And he's like, well, we really can't get involved. It's something civilly you would have to do, which I really didn't want to go that route over a
right,
deer head. So I just went up to his door, Um, Left a note on the door, and I was like, "Hey, this is the deal. I paid you money for a service. You're not delivering my service. I'm going to give you 30 days. If I don't hear from you in 30 days, I'm going to have to pursue this legally." 2 days later, I got a phone call, and this dude was hot.
Oh no.
He called me, cussing me, saying the deer head was done. He's been out of town. And I calmly was like, if you would have just called me or sent me a message saying it was done or status, I would have been fine. I was like, but you just pretty much dropped communication.
Yeah.
So we wound up getting it back after Christmas. I think it was like February is when all this happened. So we
Wow.
were over 2 years getting this back. So when we finally got it back, I made sure put it in a good spot for him. So to me,
Yeah.
it was long, hard fought to get the steer head. So this is one of my prized possessions for him.
That's awesome. Yeah. Man, you hear so many stories about taxidermists and that kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to rag on them in general. There's good ones out there, and I've been very pleased at least the couple times I've gotten a shoulder mount done to work with a good one, I guess. But I've heard so many horror stories or guys just about losing their deer or losing their hide or whatever it might be, and it's just, man, it's crazy the people out there. I don't know. It's just a weird world, but
My thought process was probably something happened and he just didn't want to tell me.
yeah.
That's where my mind went first. But, everybody's like, do your due diligence. Well, I did. I went and I Googled, and he had a 4.9 star rating out of hundreds of reviews.
Hmm.
And Facebook, he had a 5 star rating. So I did my research. It's just, I do not know what happened. It was
Yeah.
just not a pleasant experience.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. The couple times I've dealt with them, I've taken I've had a pronghorn antelope and a mule deer shoulder mounted, still haven't shot a whitetail that I've gotten shoulder mounted. If I could go back, the biggest my biggest buck to date, he's 139-inch 8 point. And if I ever kill a deer with a decent hide, that I might go get that buck shoulder mounted now. It's been, 13 years since I killed him, but still, neither here nor there. The two that I've had shoulder mounted being animals that aren't typically mounted frequently or killed frequently in Texas, I should say. They are in Texas, but not as prominent as whitetail. Um, the advice I got was, hey, make sure you go to a taxidermist that has mounted these animals before and doesn't just do whitetails because it's different than mounting a whitetail. And so I did that, and I used one of the most, probably arguably one of the more popular ones in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex here in Texas, and he did an outstanding job. When I took my pronghorn in, he's like, "Yeah, it'll be about 9 months." I said, "Okay, no problem." And 4 or 5 months later, he called me and it was done. And I guess I had because I killed it early enough in the year, I guess I beat the rush. And he was able to knock it out before he got super busy. And then my mule deer was a different story because I shot that late season Colorado. And so with that one, he said it'll be 12 months, and I think it ended up being 13 months when I got it back. So still not a big deal, but kind of what I expected. I had another guy that was recommending a different taxidermist when I was bringing that mule deer back. He's like, "Yeah, I take all my deer, muleys, whitetails, all of them to this guy. Use him." It's like, "Okay." So I called him and he's like, "Hey, I'm just being straight up honest with you." He's like, I'm a one-man show working in a small shop. Uh, you're probably not going to get your deer for 2 years." He's like, "I'm just telling you right now. That's how far back I am." I was like, "Hey, I appreciate you being honest." I
Yeah.
said, I hate to not give you my business because of that, but I also don't want to wait 2 years." And he's like, "Hey, man, I totally get it." And I was like, "Well, at least I'm glad you were straightforward with me and not trying to convince me, hey, I could probably get you in, 13 months, 14 months." And I end up being disappointed, when it's way longer. But yeah, it's a crazy, crazy business, man. So
It is because I kind of equate. waiting on your deer mount to like being a kid when Christmas come and you were waiting for that really cool gift that you were hope you were getting, and you're
Yeah.
counting down the days, and then that's kind of how I look at deer mounts.
Yeah. I
Of
know.
course, my
I
wife
feel
told
this.
me I can't shoulder mount anymore. So my first one was an 8 pointer. That was my first buck. And I said, okay, has to be bigger for me to do a shoulder mount. So I wound up killing a 10 point and I shoulder mounted that one. And so everything else I've killed has not been bigger or inchwise bigger. So I was like, well, I'm going to Euro mount everything. So I learned and watched videos and I just Euro mount all of my deer.
Yeah.
And unless I'm lucky enough to kill a monster.
Yeah. Yeah, I still, like I said, I still haven't shoulder mounted a whitetail. I've been going the Euro mount route here lately, and all these behind me, these are all like plaques, and my head, not intentionally, but it just always covers the little guy. But like that's my first buck, right, from when I was a kid, so it gets a spot on the wall, even though it's a little cow horn. But all of these are from like hunting with my dad when I was a kid over the years. So I think it's kind of cool to have them in the backdrop on the podcast and everything. And every once in a while, it leads to a little conversation piece, a little hunting story on the show, whatnot. But yeah, my wife and I redid them. I don't know, several years ago now, just because over the years they were on different colored plaques and didn't all match, and so we were able to figure it out and kind of remount them all in a uniform and to where they all match. So it was kind of cool just getting to go through that and put them all together like that. So
Yeah, I took mine to my office at work. I had a little bit more room. They make good conversation pieces when patients
yeah,
come in. So my wife says I'm not
yeah,
allowed to have them in the house right now.
yeah. It's the yeah. You call her, hey, I got a new mount. Oh, great!
Yeah,
So happy losing
when
wall space.
when I did the bear mount, she's like, "That's definitely going to your office."
Couldn't take that one home, huh?
No, I've got the claws here, but the mount is I've got it positioned in my office so it looks out down the hallway. So any of my patients that are coming in, they always get met by the bear head. So immediately it turns into whose bear is that? And I'm like, it's fine. I killed it, and they're like, wait, you hunt? And I'm like, yeah, why
Yeah.
not?
Why not? You don't?
Yeah, like who does it?
Yeah. Well, I kind of went off a rabbit trail. I got some questions for you, but since you brought it up, before we get to that, tell me about your bear hunt. I want to hear about it.
So the bear hunt is my coolest for me story that I have. So COVID year when COVID hit, I did not know if I was going to get to hunt that year because Virginia was going on lockdown and being in Tennessee, we did not know if we were going to be able to go into Virginia. It was one of those wait and see moments. So we never did hear anything. So I got my license, and Thanksgiving, the year of COVID, I went on, let's see, that Sunday before Thanksgiving, I went hunting, and I had hunted all morning long and had not seen anything. So I decided to go up on the upper part of the property. And when I got up there, I was walking through a little cut through, and it opens up into big field where my blind is on the other end. And as soon as I hit that open, there was a doe that come just screaming by me. And I had my gun strapped on me, my backpack, my bipod. I'm packing everything. And I had walked about 100 yards from the truck up a hill, so I was gassing carrying all that equipment.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, here come an 8 point buck, and he was pretty decent size, and he had moss hanging off of his head. So I figured he was back there rubbing and chasing that doe. So he runs out toward me, and he just stops and looks at me, and I'm like, crap. Everything is literally behind my back. So I had my 308 with me. So I laid my bipod down and he didn't run off. I was like, well, I may have a chance here. So I slid my gun off, threw it up, pulled the trigger. He dropped right where he was at. So go over and I just pull him over to the side and field dress him, do my thing. So that 4 days later on Thanksgiving, I take my son hunting because he's trying to get his first buck. And we're in a wood blind. He's to my left, and it is just barely daylight. And I look over, and he is sawing logs. I mean, he is. I thought there was a wild pig in the blind. He was snoring so loud. And to my right, I vaguely see just this shadow, and I couldn't make out. We were bad to have just roaming free range dogs on the property, and I couldn't make out if it was a dog, what was going on. So as the sun gets a little bit brighter, I can see because it's really foggy that it was a bear, and he was over there on the gut pile where I field dressed the deer. So he starts walking across the field and he has the deer guts hanging from his mouth,
Oh, dang.
walking across. So I woke my son up. I was like, hey, bub, it's the deer. I mean, the bear. And he looks up and he's like, shoot it. And so I said, if he hits the middle, I'm going to pull the trigger. So he got about middle ways and I pulled the trigger. He let out this god awful roar. He run in 3 circles and fell down. And when we walked up there, we waited about an hour because I finished letting him hunt. And we waited about an hour and went up there. And that bear was literally laying 5 yards from where I shot the buck. So
Wow.
two spots of blood within 5 yards of each other. So I've got my 8 point kind of centered with my bear because one go hand in hand with each other.
That's awesome. What a story, man. Golly. You
Yeah,
can't make that up.
and I will tell. I think he field dressed 250, 275, and
Wow.
we never on earth like to got that thing in the back of the truck. I broke 2 ratchet straps because we didn't have a lift or a tractor up there.
Yeah.
So I had called my dad and I was like, hey, I got a bear. I'm going to need you to come up here. And it was me, my son, my mom, and dad. And we were literally, it was like pulling a whale into the back of the truck. I think it took us 45 minutes to get that bear loaded.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I don't have any bear stories personally. That's one thing, one hunt that I have never been on. The one thing that made me think of that though, we had a lease kind of up in northeast Texas. Just one year. It was only time that we hunted out there, but a lot of it was a timber lease, and then they also leased it out to hunters and everything. So a lot of logging, and if you can imagine that kind of environment, right? A lot of tall trees and such. So long story short, there was a guy who, oh, I'll back up. I was hunting one evening and I had this, it was not even dark yet, but I had an object, an animal moving like on the backside of the clearing, probably 100, 110 yards away from me. And I put my rifle up and I looked through the scope and I was trying to figure out what it was because it was light colored. But I was like, that's not a deer. What is that? And I'm watching it through my scope and I realize that it is this huge, like ginormous, biggest wild hog I've ever seen. And it was white. It was white in color. And so it threw me off. And I realized that I was spending more time looking at this pig, amazed at what I was seeing, than actually trying to shoot it. And so I did not get a shot. And about an hour later, I hear a shot off to the my left, back in the woods a ways, which was the direction that pig was going. Come to find out, one of the other hunters in camp, he shot that pig that night. So he meets us at the road as we're coming out. He's like, "Hey, I need help." So we go back there where he's got his side by side. This thing has to be over 400 pounds. This was just an absolute monster, and it took 5 grown men to lift this thing. very difficultly into the back of his UTV. So that's to this day the largest wild pig I've ever seen with my own eyes. Um, yeah, that and you talking about that, I don't know why that made that story pop into my head, but it did. So that's one I won't forget for sure.
Well, I can tell you this much: I've got a bear that's probably easy 500
Hmm.
plus pounds on the property, and I have been within 20 yards of this bear one time in archery 2 years ago. I was sitting in a blind and I shot at a doe and misjudged, shot right under her belly. And my due diligence, I walked over to make sure there was no hair, didn't clip, because I can't stand the thought of wounding an animal and not retrieving it.
Right.
I left my crossbow in the blind and I walked over and I found the arrow clean and I look up and there is this humongous bear just staring at me 15 yards away.
Oh,
And I was like, is this thing going to eat me? But the male bear, he was terrified. He literally took off running. And I have trail cameras probably spread out a mile away from where I was at on the property. And it wasn't no time. My phone was going off. Like he flat out booked it and was tripping every camera on the way. That is the
wow.
only time I have ever seen that bear out while I've been hunting. So that's what I'm after because he's breeding really bad. And the last 3 years, we've had three cubs. And then this year, I had one that had four cubs.
Oh, wow.
So we are overpopulating on our properties with bears, and they are super destructive. I think probably the last 2 years, we've had $2,000 worth of cameras and solar panels destroyed.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it's
That's
becoming a
crazy.
big nuisance, and I've got all my cameras in metal boxes, but the
Yeah.
solar panels you cannot put in boxes, and the antennas are just sticking out. So they usually just rip the solar panels off and they rip the antennas off.
Wow. That's crazy. So what is you spoke about your property or your properties. What's your hunting setup out there? What's it look like? And I mean, you don't have to give away your exact locations or any secrets or anything like that, but in general context, what do you have to work with out there where you hunt?
So we've got it was logged. It was used to be a strip mine, and they went through, put a little topsoil on top of the mountain, and they planted a ton of olive bushes. So this is why we are overrun with bears. We've got berries that'll last for years up there.
Ah,
Luckily, on our property, or that the property that borders ours, we've got tall oaks, so we've got plenty of acorns. We've even got chestnut trees, but we've got hard timber, open fields. It's just a mix of everything, and it is steep, thick, rugged. Um, this year, tracking a doe, I was walking through just trailing and literally broke my camera off, lost a microphone that I had clipped on me just because it's so thick you can't walk through it. So I, we've got I think it's 400 acres up there, and we've done a lot of work clearing and plowing and just getting stuff to where we can get some greenery up there. This year we're putting in a water source. That seems to be something that we're missing quite a bit, but I experiment. I do a lot of throw and grow. I just like to see if I can get stuff to grow in areas that I normally don't get. But mainly, that's good for really late season. We had a plethora of acorns this year. I think November, Thanksgiving, I still had deer that were eating acorn nonstop, which is
yeah,
really late for Virginia where we're at. So
gotcha.
we got a good setup. We've got, I think, six 4x4 to 5x6 wooden blinds, which there you have to have, if you put up any other blind, it's gone with bears.
Yeah.
And then the elk come through, they will absolutely horn anything and everything, especially during October when the rut kicks in. So we have to have box blinds.
Yeah. Gotcha. No, that makes sense for sure. Uh, I'm a tree stand hunter. I like being up in a tree if I have a choice. Got a few pop-up ground blinds down here in Texas, but our destructive species that we have to deal with that we have no control over um, is cattle because the property that we hunt on is also the landowner runs cows on them. So anything that we put up has to be cattle proofed so that they don't get in and tear our stuff up because they will. They are just big destructive bullies is all that they are. So.
Horses are the same way. That
Yeah.
we got access to a new property this year. We just hadn't been able to set it up and you know get it huntable yet. But we put up a blind, and I hunted out of it a few times because we had deer picture quite a bit on it. But the horses loved the pop up blind. Every time we would go over there, they would be ripped. You could just the hoof prints in the mud right beside the blind. They would just tear it down every single time. So I think the plan is it's going to have to be the same thing up there. We're going to have to put box blinds up there. I would love to do more hunting from a tree, but I'm finding out in the world of the outdoorsman, there is a huge lack of adaptability for tree stands and climbing gear that I'm going to tackle.
Yeah, I could see that probably. That might be a niche market, so to speak. So
It is. When your feet are made to a point where they're stiff and there's no give, while trying to climb up metal ladders, you have really less control. So,
yeah,
when I hunt, I take camera equipment. My backpack is 45 pounds full of equipment, stuff that I need. I got a bipod clipped on, binoculars, and then I've got my hunting gear that I'm using gun season, crossbow, whatever. But I want to hunt more compound this year and I want to be in a tree.
yeah.
And the one system that I found, it's like $3,000. And
Oh.
I'm and I'm like, I can buy a prosthetic foot for that. So I've researched, and there's just not much in the market for adaptive users to be able to do tree stands. So I've
Yeah,
been poking the bear with some companies, seeing if we can do some stuff together. I figure worst case scenario they can say no, but I figure
yeah.
if you keep throwing the worm out in the water, eventually somebody's going to bite.
Yeah, I mean, you just said it. The worst that they can say is no, and you're in the same boat that you've been in, It's just what do you have to lose? Talking to
The
some
thing about
folks and
me,
seeing if something works.
I don't like the word no, so I'll keep on it till somebody says yeah. They'll probably like, would somebody please work with this guy because I'm tired of hearing from him.
Well, if anybody out there tuning in has an idea or is working on something, here's your guy right here. You need to team up. So,
That's right. Hit me up. We'll make it happen.
yeah. So man, where did obviously you've had a lifelong passion and been exposed and immersed in hunting in the outdoors from a young age and everything. It's part of who you are, part of your identity. But when did the push go to creating online content? Because, and speaking from personal experience, I know the difference in just being able to just being a passionate hunter and then being a passionate hunter who takes the time and puts in the work to document experiences and share that with the world, essentially. So, you have your own platform. We haven't really talked about it a whole lot yet, under kind of the outdoor amputee brand or that whole genre, if you will. But what where did that begin for you? And tell us a little bit about that.
So 2 years ago, I just out of the blue. we had a GoPro. My son races motocross. He's 16 now. He still races motocross, and that's something we like to do. He's been doing it since he's 5, and the GoPro was laying around. We didn't get to record much the last few years because rule changes. You weren't allowed to mount cameras on your helmet at races, so the footage was not that great using the GoPro. So there's a little local spot here that I was just normally bank fishing. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take this camera and I'm gonna make some content. And I really done it for me just to have on the computer. So then I had something funny happen that day, and I tripped and almost fell, and I got it on camera, and I was like, I think somebody could get a laugh out of that. Because if you know me, I'm very accident prone, but I'm also, I love to joke around. Like, if you can't crack a leg joke about me or with me, then we cannot be friends. That's the type of person I am. So I've recorded that content, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna start a YouTube channel. And my wife was like, go for it. And she's like, worst case scenario, you record it, nothing happens.
Yeah.
So I started recording, and I was like, all right, my first video, I shot it at my office because I had my deer mounts there. And I think I had an iPhone 12 at that time. I had no clue what I was doing. And a few months ago, I actually went back and watched the first video, and I was like, man, I cannot even believe that was my first video. But I thoroughly enjoy recording content. It's a love hate relationship, but it's more love for me. I just love documenting my experiences. My content is authentic. I don't do clickbait content. So if you see my thumbnail, it's not going to be leading you in and it's totally something different. When people watch my content, they know they get a dude that don't have legs that makes authentic content. I recorded this year every single weekend and I did episodes. I was showing the good, I was showing the bad because I got tired of watching hunting episodes on YouTube where it was always about the big monster kill. And a lot of the goofs were always edited out. Well, to me, that's part of hunting. Every time you go
Yeah.
hunting, you don't feel attacked. And for me, I just wanted to document that. So that's kind of how I got started. Was I just out of the blue, I wanted to do it, and from there, it's kind of grew, and I just enjoy making it. I know it sounds crazy, but I actually enjoy editing videos. I know that sounds in this world crazy because it's time consuming, but I love being able to dive in and trying to make the video look better and playing around with A row and B row footage. So,
Yeah.
you know, starting live and I'm getting ready to start podcasts, it's like for me, I'm a homebody. When I ain't at work, I'm at home if I'm not doing my outdoor stuff. So I kind of dive into the YouTube and social media part of it. Just for me, it's fun.
Yeah. No, I share the thought on the film editing, and I the time consuming part is probably my biggest hurdle because if I can get in the zone, man, and I have hours to spend on it, I'm an unstoppable machine at that point. It's just it's having that amount of time, right, to be able to commit to it and everything. But I do enjoy the editing part, and I've learned over time that it's hard for me to watch a hunting show or a film or a video, whatever it might be, and not look at it through the creator's lens anymore and not, take notes on, hey, how are they how are they filming this? What are they using to film this? How did he get that shot? How is he using that shot to tell his story in this hunt? And all those kind of things. Those are things that I've really enjoyed being able to kind of accumulate and observe just as years have gone on. And then in some of our productions and our films that we've put out, two that I'm very proud of have been, the Flatland Deer Country film that we have on YouTube and the Steep and Deep Idaho elk hunt we have on YouTube. Those were films that eh, for me also I got to be there as the producer on the ground as well. And when you're the producer on the ground, you get to, I feel like as you're filming, you're also editing in your mind and you know what you're looking for. And that just makes that editing room flow even better. It's a little bit different when you get sent a bunch of footage from somebody and it's like, okay, we need to figure out a way to do something with this. You got to spend some time with it. You got to get a better understanding for it and everything and go from there. But when you are able to be the producer yourself for a video that you're going to edit and you're going to put together and publish and everything, man, I love that. I love, I think, being in the field and looking for those shots that I know are just going to absolutely pull everybody into a story. I think that's one thing I love.
It's definitely made me up my game on accessories
Oh
because
yeah,
I
it
I
will.
feel like I gotta have a clip to mount here, chest mount, head mount. Like you got to get certain angles, but for me, when I'm editing, I can watch kind of real time what I'm trying to put on YouTube, and it helps me learn future me. Okay, you can do this better the next time you go hunting.
Yep.
So, I learned a lot from filming all those episodes. I think I had 36 episodes
Oh
from
wow.
hunting this season. And like I said, some of them were horrible. Trying to put out videos to where there's no tag field, that's part of hunting. Yep, it's not going to be huge success on YouTube, but guess what? Some people actually like authentic hunting, regardless if you got a
Yeah.
tag. But for me, I can watch that video and be like, well, next year I can do this completely different and step up my game. So that's the fun part for me when I do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that they're definitely just in recent years as the online side of hunting films and shows and videos and everybody wants everything accessible and at your fingertips, right? Not I know that there is still an outdoor channel, there's still a sportsman's channel out there, right? But so many more people are pushing online just because the on-demand content is what everybody's looking for. And on top of that, and to your point, people are looking for stuff that's authentic, that's relatable, right? And not that, I mean, I love watching a hunt where a dude shoots a monster buck or a monster elk just as much as the next guy, but it's also a reality. I've been that guy that watches it. It's like, man, that, I'm never going to get to hunt a place like that. I'm never going to get to see a deer like that or an elk like that. And, I understand that, never might not be the right mentality, but at the same time, you want something that's relatable to you. You want an experience and a show that you can engage with and compare to yourself and have an understanding on what this guy's going through. And so as a creator, you're trying to balance, okay, being authentic, but then also producing a quality enough production that people aren't going to turn it off after 30 seconds just because it seems like just some dude with a iPhone or whatever it might be. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's a balance with that for sure. But I mean, good for you, man, because that's I feel like where the hunting industry and the outdoor content creator world is moving and pushing and stuff. And there's something to be said about engaging in that world. So
absolutely.
yeah. Um, so what is your long-term goal or mission with where you want to see this take you?
I've had the conversation with my brain and actually my wife over the last few months. When I started this, it was literally to make videos with the hopes maybe one day of being monetized and earning a little bit of cash on the side. Would be nice to get paid to actually work hunting and fishing and making money. I think that would be cool.
That's the dream, right?
That's right. It's better than seeing feet all day, I'll tell you that. Um, but I have really had this burdened feeling the last couple months. Social media has really kind of opened the doors for me to be able to talk to certain people.
Yeah.
And I have no problem talking to people. Like I talk all day long. You know, I do prosthetic legs for a living. I have to talk to people. I have to talk to doctors, therapists. That is part of my job. So speaking comes really easily. Sometimes I just kind of rabble on too much sometimes. But doing this YouTube has made me realize what I kind of went back to earlier is in the outdoor segment, um, the lack of adaptability for people that want to get in the outdoors is very lacking. And I'm really big into kayak fishing. I started kayak fishing last year and I saw that there are so many issues with if you have prosthetic legs or bad knees, bad back. Some of the way these kayaks are made, yes, they're stable, but most of these dudes are 150 standing on a kayak. I don't see many people that have fake legs, bum knees, bad backs being able to stand on a kayak. And I've been able to network with people in the community, and I've had amputees reach out to me saying, "Hey, I've seen your content. What are you doing for this?" I think I've had about 10 or 15 different amputees. One of them has literally been following me for over a year, and I want to say he's out Midwest, and he is a below the knee amputee, and he has been talking to me about saddle hunting and
Wow.
wanting to try to saddle hunt. And he's asked me questions. Do you saddle hunt? And I was like, well, no, I'm really not into saddle hunting. I'll climb a tree if I have the stuff to do it. But that was his frustration. Is he's like, I researched and I can find nothing. And that's what happened to me with the kayak fishing. Is I want to be able to stand and fish. When you're setting for 8 to 10 hours at a time fishing, you have to be able to stand,
Hmm.
to stretch. And I just cannot find any content. There's nothing out there. Yeah, you can find some videos on YouTube of adaptive people using a kayak fishing, but nobody's really talking about what you can do. And I told my wife, I said, I have this platform. I know what it takes as an amputee to be able to do this.
Hmm.
I help people from amputation get a prosthetic leg and get them back walking with the intent of doing whatever they want to do. I said, I've got to use my platform. I got to be a voice for every person out there that needs help. And if I don't do that, then I'm doing it for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
Yes, I will probably not obtain the subscribers or the watch hours that I would normally get if I went a different direction. But at the end of the day, I got to follow my heart and I know I got to help certain people. So, you know, I'm still going to make hunting and fishing videos, of course. That's my passion. But I feel like in the adaptive segment, I've got a chance to open some doors for other people and I got to take it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. That's a squared away mission and approach to it. I think your mindset's right and you're in it for all the right reasons. And typically when that happens, you go great places and great things follow. So, it's not always about making a dollar or anything in an industry that we all would love to make a living in. Don't get me wrong, we already talked about that, but sometimes the impact that you have on others and the community that you can build, just with a platform like that or like Fall Obsession or anything that we got going on, that's sometimes that's the the mission and the intention behind it right there. That's the reason. So
Yep. When I'm gone, I hope that people one day say, man, that guy was one of the people that opened doors for me to be able to do this. And if that's the stuff that happens, then for me it was all worth it. Everything
yeah,
else is kind of moot.
absolutely. Well, man, we are, I know we're getting close to our time, but I got a couple questions for you that I typically throw at every first time guest that joins us. We might have already talked about one of them because the first one's normally what is the or one of your favorite hunting memories in your life to date? I know you mentioned that bear hunt earlier was pretty high up there, but wanted to throw that question your way anyway.
Probably besides my bear hunt, was the 2 years ago, me and my dad taking the bucks on the same day.
Yeah.
Um, I can remember everything about that hunt. It was cold. I was freezing. Um, 7:30, my dad, and this was during rifle season. 7:30, my dad shot, and I got a text saying that he had killed a buck and he was going to go work on it. I was hunting on a different part of the property. 30 minutes later, I had a big tall six come out and he was chasing does. And I had heard him chase does for almost 20 minutes and thought, man, he's never going to give me a chance. And he stepped out right 50 yards right in front of me. And that's where he laid. So we loaded up my deer, took it down to the other property, and we put the deers together and we took the picture. And like I said, that was almost 30 years to the day that we took our other picture. That's the last time we got deer together. So
That's awesome.
that's probably one of my most special hunts with my dad.
Awesome. I love it. Next question I got for you is what's on the bucket list? What are some hunts you want to go on that you would consider once in a lifetime for you?
One would definitely be an elk because every year I keep getting teased by these monstrous elk that trickle through the property where we're at. Um, but honestly, I know it's kind of off the wall, but I would like to go on an alligator hunt.
An alligator hunt. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, you I'll watch. I don't know if I'm going, but
there's something about having some alligator skin legs that really sound appealing to me.
I love it.
I don't do
That would
cowboy
be
boots, so I'll do the alligator legs.
that would be that would be pretty sick.
I know.
That is awesome. Well, man, the last question that I'll leave you with and leave our listeners with is mainly just if you have any closing remarks or any advice for those tuning in that, might have been inspired by your journey, might have been just more curious than anything, but uh, what do you have to leave with our listeners as we wrap it up?
Yeah, for me, don't ever give up. There's always a way and a will to do things. You just have to put your mind to it. That's the one thing I have learned my entire life. It's easy to sit in a corner and pout, but pouting gets you nowhere. It and really one of my sayings is the world waits on no one. You've got to make things happen and put your mind to it, figure out a way to do it, and check those boxes off doing it.
Yeah.
That's I set goals for myself and I know I will fail some of those goals, but guess what? Failing goals makes me stronger to be able to check off the goals that I really want to hit. So just don't ever give up because it's not worth it.
Yeah, there's a big difference between failing and quitting. Failing's okay, quitting's not. So,
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely. That's the one word that I will never have come out of my mouth is quit.
Yeah.
Fail may happen, but I will never be a quitter.
Yeah. I hear you, man. Well, Terry, tell our listeners where they can find you and follow along with the journey or keep up with everything that you got going on and the stuff that you still have coming down the pipe.
You can, all my socials are at the Outdoor Amputee. You can go to my webpage, theoutdooramputee.com. It's got all my socials, all my partners there, and you can read a little bit about me. And it's got my contact info if you want to reach out, especially if you have any questions. If you have any jokes you want to crack, I'm always looking for fresh jokes. So hit me up anytime.
Awesome. Well, man, I appreciate your time this evening and coming on Fall Obsession Podcast and sharing a little bit about yourself and talking hunting and the outdoors. And I enjoyed it. It was a good time.
Oh, I enjoy it too. It's one of my favorite things to do right here.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure it won't
Thanks
be
for
the
having me.
you bet, man. I'm sure it won't be the one or only time that you're on the show. So we'll have to do it again and run it back sometime. So,
Oh, we're gonna have some good ones. Don't worry about it.
oh yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, for y'all tuning in, make sure that you go follow along with Terry and his journey and everything that he's got going on. Subscribe to the show if you haven't already. And with that, we're gonna hang it up and I'll be back with you guys again next week for another podcast. We'll catch you then. Hang tight with me for just a minute, Terry.